Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Mic check, hello. Welcome to episode 243 of The Center Ring, and you are correct that this is going to be the best episode ever. Hey, welcome to episode 243 of the Center Ring Esports Podcast. And yes, this will be the best episode ever. We have an exclusive interview with the newly signed TSM Valorant Pro Drone. An extended interview with him talking about the upcoming release of the game and the team signing. We, of course, have Yikes of the Week. It is Monday after all. Ninja makes an appearance. And Astralis' roster shenanigans. Is there more going on than what appears? We'll break that down. And of course, we'll end the show with some e-news. But before we get to any of that, let me tell you about our sponsors, Alt. Yes, the Center Ring is presented by Alt. And if you've been listening, you already know that they are the best, the number one esports apparel. You have seen them featured with Overwatch League merch, Call of Duty League merch. They've partnered with teams like E-United and CLG, and yes, the Center Ring. You can go to altesports.com, pick up your own 101 Burglars hoodie, which is designed by yours truly, and rep that for when the weather starts getting a little cool upcoming later in the year. We also have some drops coming out in the future with them. All right, when things get back to normal, we'll hit the ground running. You'll see more TCR drops, but the only way you're going to know is if you follow @Ultimate on Twitter and, of course, their website, altesports.com.
Hi, my name's Drone. I play Valorant for TSM, and you're listening to the Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another edition of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. This is episode 243, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, May 31st, 2020, the last day of the month. Where has the year gone? The time, 8:06 p.m. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, at the Center Ring. Our website, tcr.gg, has all the other links that you'll need, including our Discord, YouTube, links to iTunes. If you listen on that, would appreciate it if you left a pleasant review, a 5-star review, whatever your heart tells you that you should leave. We do read them, so we appreciate it. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I nailed everything. My name is Tim. I'll be your host for this journey into esports, and alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. Going to be doing this show a little differently today because Anuj had some family matters to attend to, so it's just me solo at the moment. But through the power of editing and the magic of technology, it won't even make a difference. So, to start the show, like I said, we have a very exclusive interview with Drone, which is the newly signed player for TSM's Valorant roster. I guess formerly of Mousespaz, if you've been keeping up with the pro Valorant scene lately, but they've been running on a tear, dominating a lot of the early on tournaments. So we are friends with Drone just from when his time at Envy. So he was nice enough. We've actually had this interview in the works for a while now, but he kind of always teased to wait a little bit here and there, just because obviously he knew that he was signing. So he was nice enough to hop on the show and chat with us. So without further ado, we're going to start with Drone. Afterwards, we'll get into Astralis, Yikes of the Week, and everything here. So, again, I guess now for real, without further ado, here's Drone. So our next guest here on the Center Ring Esports podcast, he's an old friend of ours, met back way in his Envy days and when he lived in Dallas. He comes from the world of Counter-Strike. You can now find him playing Valorant, former Splice CS player, former Envy player, now newly signed TSM player. Welcome to the show, Drone. What is up, buddy?
Not much, just hanging out inside. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you for coming on. This is actually, we've kind of teased on the podcast for a little bit. It's been in the works, but then you've always teased like, hey, if you want to wait one more week.
Yeah, the announcement and all that. I was like, it'd be probably a little bit more to talk about if he was waiting.
Well, I mean, congrats for sure, dude. That's
congrats.
awesome.
Thank you, guys.
How, I guess let's start with that because that's obviously the big thing that just recently dropped. You guys signed with TSM, the full roster for Mouse Spaz moved over.
Yep.
How does that work out, I guess? Do they call you? Were you putting out feelers? How does that work?
It's a little bit of a meeting in between. Like obviously, some organizations are looking for teams just kind of through the grapevine, and some people actually posted on Twitter. Like Gen G, I think, posted on Twitter that they were looking for a team. So we kind of knew they were looking, and we were interested in an org. And then we kind of connected. We had some people from CS experiences have a little bit of connection. So the conversation started there and just progressed. And it was a process. Obviously, it always is to get a contract signed and all that, but it got done in the end. So.
And it's interesting. Obviously, the roster that you guys have, like you mentioned, it's a full CS:GO roster. A little unique though, in the sense of you have some really like longtime veterans of the game that have been around, coming from the old CLG days, and then a lot of up and comers in the sense of even yourself, Wardell, Sabrosa. Although y'all have had prime experience, would be considered the younger generation of CS. How did this roster kind of come together and form?
I would say it's like obviously Sabrosa and Wardell were on Orglis right before the end of CS when we switched, so they knew each other. And me and Cutler were on teams together, Envy and Splice, so we had those connections. And then Cutler had the connection with Hayes from CLG, so it was kind of like we all knew each other. We all were looking to switch, and we all knew we were good, and we would work together well. So we were like, hey, let's give this a shot. We played in a bunch of tournaments together. We started winning a lot of them under like that name Mouse Spaz, was just like Cutler's old CS team name before CLG. So we just went under that name and played. And we were talking to Wardell and Sabrosa, like, you guys looking to switch or anything? Because we're looking to make a roster and compete. And they're like, yeah, actually we might be switching. And then obviously over time we started winning more events, and it went from there. We decided to be a set 5, and then the whole TSM thing, that connection happened.
How early on? Oh, do you have something, Tim?
I was just gonna ask, was it always a team package? Like if TSM said to you, like, Drone, we want you, but not the other 4 guys. We're like,
yeah, for me, it was definitely, a team package. Like I actually had, I don't think I can drop names, but I had a bunch of offers to pull me away. They were like, hey, we want you to join our team. It was like already an established core. And I turned them all down and said, no, man, I have a 5 that we're working with. We're talking to some orgs. So yeah, that was definitely like
all right.
a tempting offer, but no, we stuck as a 5.
So you're a team player. You're not just looking out for yourself.
Yeah, and I can't speak for the other guys, but I'm confident they also got similar messages.
I talked to Cutler. He said he'd drop you in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I figured. Bald guy.
How early on, like obviously the game hasn't been out too long. It's just coming out of beta and going live, which we'll get into in a little bit. But how early on in your playing did you know, hey, this is something I want to push, like I want to go for?
Well, I mean, so obviously I was just excited for the new game coming out, having like another FPS to play. It was like when Overwatch first came out, everyone's like, wow, man, I'm so excited to like play, just have fun, And I did play Overwatch for a little bit, just nothing serious, just for fun. And I was excited in that way, like, wow, I'm going to have an option that isn't CS to play when I want to play an FPS and not just get burnt out. But actually Slasher, he DM'd me and got me into the beta, which it was super awesome of him. He's a really nice guy. And so
random.
I got into the beta, and then when I started playing it, I was like, wow, this is like, it's so similar to CS that I'm so in my comfort zone with counter strafing, aiming, bursting, all that. So it's like the mechanics are already there. They're built into me. And then with the addition of like all the abilities and different agents and opportunities for team play and utility usage, it just kind of opened up a whole new thing, which CS hasn't done for me in a while, because obviously CS is like at its core, it's like a 20-some-year-old game. CSGO is obviously less than that, but you kind of see everything, right? And in this game, it's like, wow, there's so many options and so many meta developments you can make. So that's kind of when I wanted to switch. Is like, I'd say a week into the beta.
How long has it been since you've played CS?
Like actually open. I can tell you right now. Actually, hang on. I'll check my Steam library.
Yeah, go for it. Because that's got to be a weird feeling, like a game that you probably played hours on hours every single day for however many years to...
I have 9,000 playtime hours, and the last time I opened the game was April 26th, which was, I think, the day before the beta dropped.
So over a month.
Wow.
Yeah, over a month, yeah.
Is that weird? Is that a weird feeling?
It's weird to have not touched the game, I guess. I was thinking about, because the game's Valorant's down for like 5 days. I might open it back up again just to get some FPS back in. I've actually been playing the new Doom in the meantime, so that's fun.
Oh, so it's kind of like a built-in vacation before you guys ramp it up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not bad.
With the release right around the corner, were you surprised that it was coming out so soon?
Yeah, I had no idea, actually. I thought it was going to be a couple months down the line, or, it would be in beta for a long time, quote unquote beta, but everyone's in it kind of thing. But, and then like, however many weeks ago it was, they dropped, they're like, all right, we're turning the game off and it's releasing. And I was like, oh, okay.
Like, oh,
I mean, to me, it didn't
real.
feel like a beta. The game felt so complete. I mean, there's balance changes obviously needed, but it felt like a complete game. So I guess I never really considered, I guess they have to release it at some point.
As someone who plays it a lot more than we do, are you okay with the amount of maps at the moment? Would you rather see more maps before more agents, or what?
I definitely want more maps, that's for sure. There's only 3 right now, the 4th coming when the release happens, but I want there to be a similar map pool like CS, where there's like enough to do a comfortable pick ban phase for vetoes on maps, and like not have to be forced to playing the same ones over and over again. Especially when Split is kind of just bad, I'll be honest. But yeah, and I think I don't want them to add too many agents. Like, I don't want it to be League, where there's like an overwhelming selection of people you can play with different abilities and ults you have to learn. I think it'd be better to leave the selection to like a select few, like maybe 3 or 4 that there are now, and like have those become mastered instead of just like such a wide variety that's like, the jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have a specific pool where you can get very good at them rather than a large pool.
Do you think, you're probably going to be speculating here, obviously, but do you think that is their plan, to add just a few more agents over the life of the game, or do you think it'll go more in a League direction?
I have had this conversation with people, and it's such a question. I don't know. Like, it can go either way, because League obviously was wildly successful for them, and it's obviously very profitable to have so many people with so many skins and cosmetics and all this crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, like, from a business standpoint, I'd get it if they did it. But also, like, I've tried to get out of the devs too when I play with them. I'm like, hey guys, you guys don't want to add so many, and they don't say anything. Obviously, they're not allowed. So, but I hope they don't. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
Are you comfortable with where the game is today, going live, and if you were playing in tournaments, just let's say next week, do you feel good with where the game is right now?
I feel comfortable enough to compete and be happy with it. But I feel there needs to be, like I said, more maps to make the esports competitive side of it more stable. There needs to be more maps, a few more characters, and like balance changes, I think. But like right now as a game, like overall, being released to the public, I think it's fine. I think it's like for an official release, it's perfectly fine.
Do you feel like there's any true, because I mean, obviously when the beta first came out, Raze was unanimous, like broken, just didn't fit the mechanics of the game that well. Do you feel like it's been somewhat balanced to where there's not really that truly quote unquote overpowered agent?
Yeah. I wouldn't say any are overpowered, but it kind of becomes a fuzzy line between overpowered and just like really good, because obviously in any competitive comp, Sage is there always, constantly. There's never a team versus team game which Sage is not in it, right? And at that point, is she overpowered, or is she just so good that she needs to be there? And games like, or agents like Raze, I think people use the word overpowered a bit too liberally, like in terms of like, she's not super strong, but she's like, she doesn't fit the style of all the other agents, whereas she can like kill you outright with her almost all of her abilities, where all the other ones can't do that.
Right.
Like her rocket kills you, her Roomba kills you, her nades kill you, her nades do like crazy zoning control and also kill you. So it's just like it's a huge change of pace from all the other agents.
Yeah, I felt like every other agent's abilities, although like Sova's, right? His ult could technically kill you, but it's not just as like a one shot, not even like skill wise, right? Again, I say skill. Right. Obviously, Raze takes some skill, but it's just, you can't just shoot a rocket down a hall and get a triple kill with Sova.
Exactly.
His
Yeah.
ult, you still
And
have
it's
to kind
like
of know what you're doing.
when Sova ults, I don't calm to my team. I'm dead. But when I hear Ray's ult, I'm like, I'm done. Like there's literally nothing I can do. I'm going to die.
Like rip, boys, rip.
Yeah, I say, James, do you have a res? Like I'm gonna die.
What made you kind of want to play Sova, or was it just you started playing him and everyone else just kind of said, "Okay, you're the Sova player"?
Well, I started the beta just kind of like I literally went through the line of characters and played like a day for each of them. And I played Sova and I just felt like his utility set I felt was the most dynamic in terms of like you can use it to help teammates, but you can also use it selfishly. Like say I'm holding a bomb site and they're hitting the site on me and they throw smokes. I can throw like one of those recon darts behind them where they're coming in and just sit behind their smokes and kill them as like a selfish play. Or as like a team play, I can be, hey, like I can talk to Wardell. I say, hey Matt, I'm gonna dart outside A for you, so you can try to get an op pick through the wall or something. You know what I mean? It's not even for me; it's for him. Or info gathering in the middle of a round. I just think his utility set is the most diverse, in my opinion. I don't think anyone's like really nailed him yet. Also, his shock arrows. It's like I've been so trained in Counter Strike to use my HEs well. So it's like his shock arrows are just HE grenades that explode on impact that you can shoot like anywhere you want. So it's just like when you think of them like that, you can just use them for so much damage. He was just my favorite to play.
Do you think it's going to be important for pro players to really master a handful of characters, or do you think people will be specialized to a character and that's how it'll work?
I think it's going to be important to master a couple, like 2 or 3. I think you need to be able to, like, change up your comp in a tournament, or if something's not working, or let's say you're playing a team that's like, and this has already occurred to us a couple of times, like you play a really, really passive team and your comp would be better suited to not have aggressive characters, or like if let's say you're playing a super aggressive team that's on attack that just literally 5-mans everywhere and just runs at you, then it'd be a lot better to have people like slows or like sage balls or like even raise nades to zone them out of the spots that they're rushing, stuff like that. So like there have been instances in which we're like, wow, we're playing our characters, but I really wish we had this comp. So I think it's important to be able to play multiple characters.
How do you feel about some of the other lineups that have been put together? Obviously, one of the biggest ones that comes to mind is Sinatra joining Sentinels along with a handful of like just big name players. How do you feel about some of these other teams that have been formed? I mean, it's all just starting from scratch, right? Unlike CS.
Right. Yeah. I was actually surprised to see that like a team like Sentinels is like it's a mix of CS players and Overwatch players. And the thing is, I'm so disconnected from other esports for the most part. Like I don't watch Overwatch, I don't watch League, I don't watch StarCraft, and I'm like really into FPS 5v5 tactical shooters. Like that's like my niche, right? So when I saw Sinatra join that, I literally had no idea who Sinatra was. I was like, who is Sinatra? Like I played him in a game and he was like pretty good, and I was like, and someone's like, yo, that's Sinatra. I was like, I don't.
That's
who is
awesome.
That?
Like
And they're like, he's like the Overwatch League MVP. I was like, oh shit, okay. Like. But yeah, it's just cool to me because I don't know. I'd like to know where those connections came from, like how Shazam knew Sinatra, or how Sick and you know what I mean, like how those guys got together. So like that question you asked me earlier about my 5, I'd like to ask something like Sentinels. Obviously, T1's mostly CS players though.
Do you kind of keep an eye on what's going on in terms of like some of these EU tournaments that have been happening? Because it seems like they've been rapid fire for the last few weeks coming out over there.
I haven't watched them myself, but I've seen enough of like Twitter posts and like this new hitbox website for Valorant that's like there's a like Fish some 123 or something, some random EU team name, like, and they're supposed to be like really good. And so I haven't watched them, but I probably should. Now that you mention it, I'm curious if they have like a different comp, or if they like play different agents in their comp or something.
Is it somewhat refreshing, because you even said like, you had no idea who Sinatra even was, and he's like was the poster boy for Overwatch, which is hilarious. Then that you just had no idea. I think that's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
Is it refreshing playing a game where no one has that mindset of, hey, I know more than you, or I've been playing it longer than you, so you need to listen to me? Because we've heard it, like in Counter-Strike, you can have toxic teammates just from that sense of like, dude, you're 22. I was playing this game before you were born. Like before you could hold a mouse, I was playing this game.
Yeah, I think that's a nice change of pace, because you do get the elitists in Counter-Strike that are like, I've been playing since you were in diapers. It's like, yeah, but like, and now that you're in a new game, nobody can really say that. No one can be like, oh, I know better than you. It's like, man, the game's new, everyone's learning, and that's kind of a new experience where everyone's learning. It's not one guy on the team being like teaching people. It's like everyone collectively together figuring out things, new plays, new comps, stuff like that. And it's kind of nice to be able to mingle with people from other communities as well. Like meet people from Overwatch, meet people from PUBG. Like the PUBG guys, the high ground team that plays in NA, they're
Yeah.
really cool. They're really cool guys, and I had no idea who any of them were before this. So
How has the support been from, like, obviously you've been on big orgs before. You played for Envy, you played for Splice. How has it been different being with TSM?
just from the get-go, TSM is like such a daunting name. You know, you hear TSM, you're like, wow, that's like they're like the cornerstone of like esports,
We
almost like
actually
one of the
we
big
talked
names.
about that before the interview, like before you got onto the call. We were like, TSM's a big org. Like you didn't just like dabble into Valorant and then work your way up. It's you are starting at the top when it comes to
Yeah. There's
names.
no ladder to climb. You start at the top rung, right? It's like it was a bit of a like when the prospect comes through, you're like, we might get TSM. You're like, wait, we might get TSM. Like those guys are gonna sign us, and it's pretty cool because obviously you can tell just by the way they conduct themselves and the way the process went with the contracts and getting signed. They've done this a long time. You can tell. I mean, everything was very, very clear, very productive. Nothing was like kind of ignored. You know what I mean? It was such a refreshing experience because I've been on other orgs and I won't say names, but like where things like almost it was like pulling teeth to get some things done or like certain questions answered or like simple things like hey man, I need a new keyword, right? And like some other orgs I've been on would be like, we'll see if we can do that next month.
Here's
But like,
here's a
yeah,
code
go
for
for it.
15% off.
Yeah, exactly that kind of thing, right? But TSM, I've been using all the Logitech stuff. I love it, but like, it's so quick, it's so responsive. Like I can get a message out and then get a response in like an hour. It's so nice.
I saw you got that Logitech drop already on Twitter.
Yeah, that big shipment. Yeah,
That's gotta be
it was
pretty
so
sweet.
sick. I'm decked out right now. I got the Logitech, the Pro X headset on, the Pro keyboard, I actually really like the mouse pad. I was
I,
surprised.
I want you to be the test dummy for me on this with the Logitech equipment. They have the
Okay.
new wireless keyboard that just came out, right?
Ooh, okay.
And I know Skadoodle mentioned that he's also sponsored by Logitech. He's using it. So if you get one of those, let us know what you think of it. I'm
I
curious
will
to
do that.
see.
I've been using I mean, I figure they have the wireless technology in their mice, like the Pro, right? I mean, that I have no problem using. I have no input delay. I feel great. I prefer wireless mice. So I figure if they put the same thing in the keyboard, I mean,
Should
surely
work.
if there was going to be any input delay, I'd feel it on my mouse before my keyboard, right?
Yeah. Yeah, with
So
keyboard, you just get nervous, I guess, with how quick you're like pressing some key actions if it would
yeah,
register.
I guess.
But
Yeah, that's fair. But
you
I
know,
actually do want to try that. Yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit and ask you about the CS scene, right? Something that
Okay.
you've just been a part of for so long.
Yeah.
And obviously there's been a lot of talk about the shift. We're clearly seeing it. A lot of people have moved over from Counter-Strike and other titles as well, but Counter-Strike just seems to make the most sense because of the gameplay. The
Right.
NA scene in particular has taken a big hit, especially with just look at the names that are on your team in particular. So do you see a long-term issue here possibly for Counter-Strike in terms of the lower tier 2 moving into tier 1, or people that were at your level trying to get onto a top tier team? Is this going to hurt Counter-Strike in terms of the growth initially or even potentially long term?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it already has, like you mentioned, like a lot of the tier two teams. I think the problem with Counter Strike is like it's so top heavy right now. Like the weight is just so unbalanced. Like top teams are on contracts with salaries that are like so unbelievably inflated that you like it's so unprofitable for any org, and I get it, to pick up a tier two team because they're not getting any return on that. They're not getting much viewership. They're not getting much like exposure. They're not getting many merch sales just off of tier two teams. Like, why would, let's say, I don't know, what's a CLG? Why would they pick up a tier two CS team right now? There's no incentive,
Or
right?
you can almost even
And
use
so,
your own org, right? It was rumored for a long time TSM was looking for a CS:GO team, and maybe they still are, but I would have to
right.
imagine, refocusing towards
They,
Valorant.
they signed a Valorant team first.
Yeah,
Right.
That's
exactly.
kind of the thing there.
Yeah, and it's like, why would anyone invest in a tier two team right now? Because there's no return on investment. The tournament circuit favors top heavy teams way too much. It's like if they don't change something or find a way to distribute things more evenly between the top tier one, tier two, and a little bit trickle down, it's going to be a huge problem continuing because tier two CS players have no reason to stay. They'd switch, and like that's what like happened, and you see it happening with Wardell, Sabrosa, myself. You see Crashy switch. You see Brax. Well, Brax wasn't.
Yeah.
Brax has other incentives,
Yeah.
obviously, but Six switch, Shazam switches, all these people. JDM, he isn't on the team right now, but he switched. You see all these people switching over because it's just the clear better option.
Do you think there are more big names to come?
I think so. I haven't talked personally to anybody, so I can't confirm that even without dropping names or anything. But
Yeah.
I'm sure that there will be some bigger names. Like Sinatra, like there's not been a Sinatra switch in CS yet. Like Sinatra was like the Overwatch guy, right? And he
Yeah.
switched, but there hasn't been the CS guy who's switched yet. So I think like if someone like it'd be a big shakeup if someone like let's say like JW switches to Valorant. That'd be huge, right?
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for something like that to happen, but it hasn't yet, and I think it will.
I think just overall on the CS side, maybe I obviously don't have my tracker on EU as hard, but there really hasn't really been a whole lot of EU players moving over. Has there been?
I haven't heard of any. I know Scream was playing with people in it. I think he might have switched. I'm not even 100% sure, but I know he's been playing it a lot.
Mixwell, possibly, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
Mixwell I
Right?
think did switch, right? Yeah, those guys have switched. I have been seeing Scream play it just for fun, maybe. Like I said, I can't speak too
He's
much on
playing
that,
a
but
lot. If he's playing for fun, he's playing a lot
yeah,
right
he
now.
must be having a lot of fun, right?
But,
So
Scream and Mixwell are also two of those guys that either have had a string of bad luck, whether they can't find the right team or dysfunction that they both ran through. But there really hasn't been that like core EU player. It doesn't seem like make the move, and I don't think that has anything to do with EU versus NA. I think you guys have just been provided a lot of good opportunities. The tournament circuit that's already taken off for Valorant has been extensive, right? Like, I mean, it feels like each weekend we're seeing a new tournament come through. Are you enjoying the pace that this is moving at right now? I mean, it must be a lot of fun coming in, and it's one after another for you guys.
yeah, and obviously helps that we've won a lot of them, so it's like
Yeah.
a double thing. So like it was pretty much every weekend. It's like, hey, we got this going on, we got the Nerd Street this, we got the CLG Blitz Cup, we got this and that going on, And like, do you guys want to play in this? There's just so many options and so many opportunities to get more experience playing in a competitive environment against other teams. And that's nice. And it's like CS had this weird thing where they were like this, at least when you were in the pro league and you were like solidified as a team, top whatever. There would be like highs and lows. You'd be like super super busy for like a couple months nonstop playing, and then there'd be like a lull where you're not doing anything for a long time. But right now it's like consistent, and we can choose to not play in the events that we are like they're opens and stuff. There hasn't been any like league or anything yet. So it's nice to be able to be like, all right, we can play this weekend, we can play this weekend, or we can like take time off and practice and work on things ourselves. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Are you looking forward to, I guess, like, obviously Riot is not making their own league yet. We all assume at some point it'll be some sort of franchise league, similar to probably what they're doing with League of Legends. But initially, it's going to be up to third-party tournament organizers to really run the show here. Do you want it to be, do you think it'll be similar to the way the CS circuit is done right now with, the ESLs, and I mean, you name it, there's 100 out there that could put tournaments together. Are you excited for what that's going to be like over the next year, or are you looking forward to when there's some sort of set league in place?
Um, yeah, I'm excited. The only thing that made me I wonder how this works because Riot did release a statement saying that how they kind of wanted to structure their esports like like esports infrastructure moving forward was that they're going to let third party organizers take over their game for the I think they said like first year,
Right.
Yeah,
something like that. It was a
there.
public
Yeah.
statement, right? Yeah. And they said and then they're going to take over and they're going to like, run it all. So I'm wondering if that's going to if that's going to push companies like ESL away to say why would we invest if we're just going to get kicked out in a year? You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially because
Yeah.
some of them have been there and done that with Overwatch. Because Blizzard kind of did the same thing, but they didn't even tell them. They just kind of said, "Yeah, you can do what you
Yeah.
want," and then said, "Nope, we're doing this league." So
Yeah, so it makes you wonder, like, is it worth for them to come in and fully go in and like create these tournaments and these circuits and all these things if they know that it's all going to be temporary?
Do you
But
want
yeah,
to see a franchise league type format, or
if it's done well, yeah. But it's kind of scary because obviously Overwatch League was, I mean, not great the way it was done.
yeah,
But
it's been
yeah,
shaky, to say the least.
been shaky, right? But if they do it right, I think it's fine. It's just a matter of like, can you trust them to do it right? Is the thing because I mean, Riot's obviously not known for being. I mean, they do League and they do that well. They do their whole LCS thing very well. So if it's similar to that, I'm excited for it. But like, if it's, I
Yeah.
guess I don't know because I don't know anyone at Riot is like ESL obviously has been there, done that. They've done it for so long, they know how to make it work. Riot, I guess through League they have, but again, it's like I don't really know. I'm excited for it if it works well. Is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel, again, I wanted you to be honest here. Did you feel the same way when you were playing CS when franchising was brought up? Because I felt like the notion within the CS community was that it's very anti-franchising, right? And at
Yeah.
least that's what you got from a lot of the players. Did you feel the same way when you were playing CS about franchising?
Yeah, I did. Not like the way I feel now with Riot, but I felt the same way. It's like that's kind of like I wouldn't really want that. And the thing that made me question it the most was that it's not that the whole idea of franchising is so much like a big down for me. It's just like they did it so late into the game. Like the game came out in 2012, and they're like, all right, we might franchise it like 8 years later. And you're like, well, I don't know. It's just so strange. But yeah, and then there were obviously the conversations you're like, well, that's going to kill the tier two scene. It's kind of already dead now. But like, obviously, that would make it worse depending on how they did the franchising. Like, that
Mhm.
would just completely lock tier two players out. You cannot progress. So
That's especially what you see with Overwatch and Call of Duty is just the tier 2 is kind of it's there, but what for?
yeah, exactly. There's no like for CS right now. There's ESL Pro League. There's a major, that whole qualifying thing they do to get to the minor, to get to the major, to get the stickers, to do all this. There's a lot of and I mean, comparatively, there's a lot of opportunities in CS for teams to grow and to like break into the tier one scene, like the ESL Pro League qualifications. Is like even though they changed it and made it a little harder now. It used to be you play in MDL, you play well enough in an MDL, you get moved up to Pro League, and then you play well in there, you're a tier one team all of a sudden.
So being from the
But if you franchise,
outside,
it doesn't work.
being from the outside looking in, do you get a chuckle seeing all the updates that are just suddenly happening to CS?
I found the one very specifically funny where Valorant comes out where you can see everyone's crosshair, and then CS is like, we made an update. You can see each other's crosshairs, and you're like, I wonder where that came from.
Is
But yeah, it is funny, and I knew it would happen. Obviously,
Right.
competition kind of drives innovation. So it's like when they have, such a huge competitor too. It's not like some small game that's like Battalion was. Battalion 1944 was like, yeah, it was cool, yeah, it was fun, but it wasn't like Riot. Like Riot is here, and they're basically taking aim at Counter Strike and they're trying to take over. So now Valve kind of has to. They're forced to like make updates to their game. I think they're going to push Source 2 pretty soon. I'm pretty confident about that. It'd seem like to be a perfect time to do it. That
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Is it we've heard from other, members in the Valorant community now, I guess you can say that, like from Hiko saying that he's talked to Riot 1,000 times more than he ever talked to Valve's devs or CSGO's devs specifically. Have you kind of felt that same way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no Hiko, obviously. Like Hiko's got he's got his connections, but like I have never in my life, and I've played this game Counter Strike for like since it came out in 2012. The day that I played the beta of this, I have never in my life talked to a developer for this game ever to this day. Valorant IQ matchmaking with the guy like Volcano, and he's like one of the lead devs, and it's like so weird to be able to have that open line of communication. And obviously, you don't want to abuse it and be like that annoying guy who's like, "Hey, are you gonna add this? Or are you gonna fix this?
Can
Or
I have
fix my
this
bugs?"
skin? Can I get that?
Yeah, exactly. So you don't do that, but you can. It's nice to see a dev care about his game and devs like actually involved in playing and recognizing things, and like you see them experience the same things you see if something weird happens, and you don't have to say anything because you know they're going to work on it because it just happened, right?
So you haven't had that awkward moment where you think you should have had the headshot and you just instinctively yelled, "This game sucks," while playing with a dev?
I haven't. I have not. I mean, I've had experiences with especially the last couple patches where there's been the registry issues.
All right.
On stream one time, I was playing like a ranked game and I died, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that was a headshot. And then I had someone clip it and watch back, and I was like, yeah, that was on his head, but he didn't die. So I haven't said it around the devs yet, but again, like, and they're so transparent about it too. If you've noticed, their dev blog posts are like,
Yeah.
they come out
Oh,
pretty
great.
often. They're like, yeah, obviously there's reg issues, obviously there's lag issues, there's things going on. It's like so nice to have a developer that acknowledges that. Not even so much like, I wouldn't even care if Valve didn't fix it right away, as long as they acknowledge there's an issue.
Mhm.
I'm happy,
Yeah, I think,
Just
and
and
that's
that's just a
transparency,
huge
right?
difference.
we just want to know that you know and that you're doing something.
Yeah, that's all I care about, man. That communication is like it's such a huge difference, and I guess Valve doesn't, either their philosophy doesn't support that or they just don't understand it or what, but they don't do that.
So let's assume all the Valorant devs are listening right now.
Okay.
What's the one thing you would like to be updated prior to release of the game?
Prior to release, I really want optimization for frame rate, because right now it's like um it's not so much low, because there are times where I get 300. What I care most about is the crazy fluctuations I get in my frame rate. Is like, and what's cool is you can have that little graph. I don't know if you guys have played enough, but instead of just having text frame rate, you can have a graph over
Mhm.
time showing you the changes. I get like situations where I'll be like dropping over 150 FPS in like a second while in a gunfight, and you can just feel that when you're playing. that's something I want them to address, and they obviously already have in their blog post. They've said things like, we're addressing optimization issues, FEF problems. They've already fixed it a little bit. I want them to change split a little bit as a map. I think that needs to be reworked a bit. But other than that, I think for like I wouldn't call it like tier 1 esports ready right now, because obviously there's so many things they need to add. They have to add the maps, they have to add new agents. But as a game being released to just like as a game, I think it's ready. Yeah.
Does somebody coming from Counter-Strike such as yourself, does the aim punch in this game bother you at all? Or like
Not
that little stun
mm,
effect that you also like kind of get on when you're initially in a firefight where the
oh,
movement,
the tagging.
yeah, the tagging.
Yeah, well, I started playing Counter Strike in 1.6, where tagging was like a huge thing. Tagging was like as bad as it is in this game, if not worse, in 1.6. You get hit once, you're like, all right, I'm either committed to this firefight. There's like very little chance I'm getting away. So I mean, it took some time to adjust, obviously, coming from Go for like 12 years. But yeah, I got used to it, and I'm fine with it now. But it did take an adjustment period there, and also the aim punch is weird because it's like it's almost like in CS:GO you get aim punched if you get headshot if you don't have head armor, if you get gooshed or something.
Mm-hmm.
But this game, there is no head armor. You get gooshed all the time. So your aim punch happens no matter what. That sometimes is frustrating when you're like, you have a kill. Like, I'll headshot the guy first with my Phantom, and then he gets like a lucky headshot back on me while his aim's going crazy, and then I lose. So,
Are you guys competing in the the release tournament, whatever they're calling it?
oh, the Twitch Rivals thing?
Yeah, I guess the Riot and Twitch tournament, is that Twitch Rivals, whatever?
I think it's, yeah, we're competing. Yeah.
All right, and that's your first one under the TSM banner, correct?
Yeah, it's more of like the Twitch thing is more of like a release, a celebratory thing. I wouldn't think it's too much of a competition driven
Okay,
like
so it's
esports
like
thing.
streamers and everyone can.
Yeah,
do
it's
it.
kind of like the early
Okay.
on things where it's like the things they had like all the streamers play and build teams and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
But yeah.
Any tournaments coming up that you want to throw out there, or that y'all are signed up and ready to go for?
I don't know if I can actually say anything because I don't know if
They have said anything.
there are
yet?
tournaments. I don't know if I can talk about them. I'll say
Okay.
that.
Okay.
All right.
Good deal.
You ready to get back on LAN?
Super. Actually, I'm so excited to see how this game plays on LAN. That's going to be a weird thing for me. I think is like changing online is one thing, but like going to a Valorant LAN instead of a CS LAN is going to be so. I think that's going to be such a weird experience for me because it's going to be like I'm so used to going to CS LANs and I know every single person there. I know everybody at the CS LAN because I played CS for so long and all these people play CS with me and I know them all. Going to a Valorant LAN, I'm going to run into people. I'm going to be like, I'm not going to be the guy everyone knows because I played Counter Strike and I play all this stuff. I'm going to be the guy that just kind of plays Valorant and I'm like one of you know what I mean? I don't know. It's going to be a surreal experience not knowing anybody. And
That's just, yeah. It's weird to start fresh. Like it's been a while. Like you said, I think the last game that I think that you could say was Overwatch, and even that was 4 years ago.
yeah,
To
no,
where-
that's crazy to think Overwatch was 4 years ago, but you're right. It is a long time ago.
What was, I
That's
guess,
weird.
did you try, what was the last game before this one that you were like, oh, maybe I'll try going pro in?
Never actually gave it serious consideration to go pro in. I played Overwatch, like I said, enough casually to where I got to like one of the higher. Dude, the last time I played Overwatch, I mean, you know more about the game than I do, but like the hamster guy
Yeah.
was
Wrecking Ball.
like, what was the last time when he first got introduced? Was the last time I even opened the game.
Okay. So it was a while
so-
ago.
But like I played the first competitive season where the ranks were like numbers. You remember that?
Yep.
Where they weren't like they were just numbers like 70, 60, whatever, and the highest was like
Yeah.
79 or something. I got like really high in those numbers. I was like up there with some of the good guys. And then I just stopped because the game became stale for me, I guess. I didn't enjoy it so much. The combat didn't feel rewarding. Like you get a Counter-Strike headshot or like a Valorant headshot, you're like nice. And you get like a headshot and that I gotta shoot him 4 more times in the head before he dies. So it's just not really I don't know. It wasn't my thing, I guess.
Probably why that transition for so many CS players has been so smooth,
Yeah.
because it does feel rewarding like CS. Like gunplay feels rewarding in this game, and there's not many games out there I feel that give you that same type of experience.
Yeah, exactly. I do I call it the one tap test. Like if you one tap someone and it feels nice, then I like the game, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you can't one tap really in Overwatch or whatever other games I've.
That was
seen and played.
one of the things I loved. I don't know if you know this, Drone, but I was a semi-pro in Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and
I was
2.
gonna say that game. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you know that was kind of a big deal. Team was Operation Minty Hippos back in MLG days. Little fun fact about me. But you could one tap in that game. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, I actually enjoyed it. I played that game a little bit, Rainbow Six Siege. I played for like a couple days, and I had fun because the gunplay was rewarding, like you said, fast. It's like time to kill is really low, which is cool, and like you other headshots. I did this one thing, man. I forget what it was called, but someone got really mad at me for it. I guess so. You start inside of like a zone. If you're defending, you can't really go outside, right? There's
Right.
like a well, I did this thing where it's like a 5 second time. I ran out of the zone and killed some guys outside before the timer ran out, and I ran back in.
That will upset
People
a
got
lot of people in that game.
they got real mad at me, dude. I was like, I don't know this game, man. I'm just killing people.
You are not. That is like, I guess, a gentleman's agreement. Like, you stay inside, you don't peek outside. But yes, that,
Yeah,
I do know.
exactly.
I do know that will upset a lot of people. I have a few more questions. True or false? You're not actually a Valorant free agent unless you have it in your Twitter profile.
I guess it's true. Yeah, everyone's a Valorant free agent right now, I guess.
All right. And your Twitter says Drone CSGO. So are you really a Valorant pro?
I am trying to get that changed, but Twitter is a mystery sometimes. And if there's anyone harder to get a hold of than Valve devs, it might be Twitter guys. So
There you go.
that's kind of a process. Because the thing is, I don't know if you know this, I have verification. If you switch that you lose verification
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want to do that unless I talk to the Twitter guy. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to switch this. Can you just like pop it back on there? And as soon as I get that confirmation, dude, it's gone. The CSGO part's gone.
What's
Just
going to be
I
the
haven't
new
been able
name?
to. Yeah, that's the thing, right? I'm sure @drone is not a thing.
That's a lot of pressure.
I'm gonna check. Maybe I can buy it from him. Twitter.com.
Yeah, we can look at.
He's suspended.
Oh, well, then that should
There's a
probably be an
chance.
easy
There's a chance.
Hello, Twitter guys, if you're listening.
account
up.
suspended. How do you get
How
a
much
Twitter
have you
account
been
suspended?
offered for your check mark now that they are allowing you to like switch it to somebody if you choose to?
You can switch to people?
Yeah, like that feature came out that like I guess you could switch it over to
Really?
another account. So
Wait a second. Maybe I
I'm
can get into
surprised
that.
that you haven't been hit at.
I have not. I've gotten like over the years, I've gotten like multiple DMs of people saying, "How the hell did you get verified?" That's a thing.
Yeah,
And
is
I'm
that a
like-
little offensive? Like, what do you mean? How the hell? I was a professional
Yeah.
Counter-Strike player. Give me some credit.
Yeah, well, I guess I don't know, man. It's just people that like aren't involved in esports scene that message me too. It's like people that like don't follow anyone esports. They just find my account and they're like, "How are you verified?" I'm like, "Who are you? Like what?"
Look at my profile, bro. Look me up.
Like Google, right? Go like I mean, I think I got verified when I was on Splice. It was that long ago.
Now, I will give you credit because you do have. Well, I don't know because we follow each other. Are your DMs open?
My DMs are open.
What's have you had any backseat Valorant gamers DM you yet saying, "Hey, I saw you
Mhm.
playing Team Brax the other day, and you did your camera here."
Yeah, definitely not Valorant yet. I've had that happen in CS plenty of times. Also, in my stream, it's happened when I've played Valorant. I have people in my chat being like, "You should have done this," and I just like, there's so many things that go in my mind. And I'm like, I'm not gonna reply. Like, it's just not worth replying to this guy.
Oh,
Like,
really? Should I have done that? Would I not have gotten shot? Like, thank you.
yeah, it's like these. It's, ooh, man, that's one thing that will like trigger somebody. It's like, man, I'm just playing the game on stream. Like,
Just trying to
yeah,
have a good
maybe
time.
there's like a 1,000 possibilities you can do in any situation, and you're just naming another one of them and telling me to do it. Like,
That's what I always love when even in pugs, like even in our level, and we suck at the game, people are like, "Hey, watch this," and then you'll die, and they're like, "Bro, why didn't you watch it?" I'm like, "I'll ask him not to shoot me in the head next time." Is that what
yeah,
you
exactly.
Like-
You're like, I was watching it. He shot me.
want?
Like,
What do you want from me?
and then they'll be like, "Oh, you gotta hold it wider, man." And you're like, "Oh, okay, all right, that's fine."
I'll do that next time. Then I'll
Yeah,
ask
man.
him, "Hey, could you not look at this corner the next time you peek me? Thank you."
For sure, I didn't realize you never died to someone peeking you, man. My bad.
I think we hit everything. Anuj, do you have anything else?
No, man. Just again, like a big congrats to you. This is such an awesome step, I think, in your career. We're looking forward to following you, dude, and hopefully big things to come for you and the rest of the TSM crew.
Yeah, man, thanks. I appreciate it. It's a huge thing for me too. You know, obviously TSM is like a huge brand, the big org. It's like a cornerstone of esports, and it's like kind of a surreal experience to be under them finally.
So before we let you go, oh
Hey.
yeah, there you go.
There we go. There we go.
Love it.
Anuj has the TSM chair. I didn't even. Yeah, he was a homer well before this.
Love
You
it.
know what? I just think they have one of the coolest iconic logos for me.
They really do, man. Their
and-
merch is insane too.
Like I'm a Counter Strike homer, and you know TSM has not been like huge within the CS:GO scene. At least as of late, they've had some teams in the past, Astralis pretty much. But I love the logo. I love the look, the black and white. So it's a clean one, dude.
It is clean. Yeah.
I just went to their store. Yeah, they do have some pretty neat merch. So for all of our listeners, because we move the needle in esports, Drone. So
Okay.
go ahead and follow Drone at the moment at Drone CS:GO. If you're listening to this interview in like a month, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe just Google drone and see what comes up.
Yeah,
If it's not a helicopter, it's probably me.
there's that. You do stream. What's your Twitch?
Just twitch.tv/drone.
Okay, so you got Drone on that.
I did get drone on that.
That's
There you
actually
go.
kind of impressive. How long have you had that?
A couple years. It was actually surprisingly simple. I messaged someone that I knew was a pretty big streamer, and I was like, "Hey, how do I get a Twitch name?" And he's like, "Hang on." And then I think it was Squishy Muffins who messaged me from Twitch, and he's like, "Hey, man." It's like, "Hey," I was like, "Can I get your own?" He's like, yeah, one sec." And then I got it in like that day. It's like, "Oh, okay, thanks."
Just it's all about who you know. It's all
Yeah,
about who you
basically. Yeah.
All right, very cool. Before we let you go, if we could get a liner from you, it's just where you can state your name, your team if you want, and you're listening to the Center Ring.
Hi, my name's Drone. I play TSM, or I play Valorant for TSM, and you're listening to the Center Ring.
Okay, so there you have it. There is the newly signed TSM Valorant player Drone. So always cool to kind of catch up with him. He's a good dude, a nice guy. So I wish nothing but the best for him.
Yeah, that was a fun interview. He's just so open, and you can tell that he is 100% excited, and it really feels like he made the right move. Which I think, obviously we agree with him and the move that he did make, but you can tell that he's just all in on this game and moving forward. And what an opportunity, like we mentioned, being with TSM. Like, you talk about going from maybe the mid-level CS pros to top tier in Valorant. Like that's an impressive feat. So congrats to him.
Yeah, it's something we asked him after the interview. Just kind of an after interview chat, as it sometimes happens. We asked him, like, kind of, is it crazy to kind of be playing against some of the guys that he's playing against now in Valorant that he maybe not have had a chance to play with CS? And I was thinking more like Skadoodle, right? Because former major winner, just all time great for CS. And surprisingly, Drone actually said it was the coolest person was to see was Brax. Just because obviously the story behind him being perma-banned for majors in CS, so there wasn't really a whole lot to play for CS, and it was kind of cool to see that, even the players for Valorant are aware, like, to see Brax having that chance and everything. So best part of the whole interview, though, is that he legit had no idea who Sinatra was.
Doesn't that blow your mind? I mean, it's just
It really
the
does.
bubble that he lives in, right? Like CS was his world for so long, and yeah, I mean, not knowing Sinatra, that was pretty funny. Like that gave me a good laugh.
Like, even in traditional sports, like, Tiger Woods knows who Brady is, or vice versa. Like, it's just funny how in esports, yeah, it really is just that's why I always laugh when people are like, esports is $1 billion industry. So then, like, they'll point out games like Smite or something like that, like Paladins, and I'm like, hold up. That's a very blanket statement. Esports covers a lot. What game are you talking about?
There's certain games that move the needle. There's other games that are not even on the speedometer.
Yeah, like,
So
if
it's
esports is worth $1 billion, 98% of that is made up of 3 different games.
yeah.
So let's slow down, okay? That's why I always chuckle at it. But yeah, not knowing who I wonder what Sinatra I mean, yeah, who knows? I'm sure Sinatra was cool with it. He probably didn't know who Drone was, right? So it's just kind of how it goes. But let's get into some yikes of the week. I'll let you start because I actually have some audio for mine.
Yeah, so mine comes from the world of Richard Lewis, man. He just put out an article recently, kind of going over the Vancouver Titans fiasco and really some more of the story behind that roster move. I think our initial assumptions going into this were that it just wasn't a good fit, right? Like, these guys wanted to go play back at home in Korea. They didn't have that opportunity to do so because obviously Vancouver built their new training facility and wanted the team to be based here. And almost the way it sounded from a PR standpoint that it was kind of more of a mutual split, right? Like, okay, it's not working out for
Yeah.
them.
Definitely
It's
got
not working
ugly.
out for us.
Like it wasn't like from the get-go. Like it definitely got ugly for a little bit, but at the end it was kind of, hey.
Yeah, and according to his report, again, I don't know if I couldn't sit here and tell you it's 100% accurate. We'll just go with what Richard Lewis says in this case. But according to him, there was a plethora of issues. Like, first and foremost, Vancouver didn't feel like they were very marketable within their market. Go figure. An all Korean team in a U.S. based market, maybe not a team that doesn't speak primary English as their first and native
Now,
language. Like they weren't overly marketable in
I don't
Seattle.
want to paint Vancouver with a brush. And this might be dumb white guy Tim coming out. But Vancouver is heavily Asian populated. But maybe that doesn't translate to Korean? I don't know. Like I just
Yeah,
know
like
Asian.
I'm sure there's a huge Asian base there. It's a massive city, but in terms of them being like not easy to sell within the states, that doesn't come as much of a shock in the states.
Yeah.
Canada doesn't come as much of a shocker, but that was kind of a portion of it. That was a very small piece of it. The other big piece that stood out to me here, there was two of them. First one being, Tim, that they said that they wanted to cut the contracts early. And by doing so, obviously the players would forfeit a good amount of their pay for the rest of the season because they wanted to pick up Runaway, or whoever the team was that they ended up picking up. Not Runaway. Was it Runaway? I don't even know.
No, Runaway was Vancouver.
Runaway was them. Whoever they picked up from the Contenders
Yeah.
League. They wanted to cut the contracts early. The players, in this case, Fisher, did not agree to it. And that's why he was the first one cut from the roster and released from the roster. The second part of it were more tied to the accommodation. So these guys were now asked to live in their new facility, the Adams facility. I might be drawing a blank on the name, but the new facility that Vancouver had made. And the players would be housed in this facility, and they made it seem like a state-of-the-art facility, which, hey, maybe the practice areas were, the social areas might have been great. But according to the reports, where the players' rooms were basically the size of walk-in closets. They were concreted out. They weren't painted. It was concrete flooring. They didn't have a personal PC dedicated to them. It was used in a shared space, and those PCs were monitored. So good luck going to Pornhub comfortably. Like that becomes very difficult in a time like this. And so, basically it was just more about the living accommodations. Like they weren't up to par. They were put in a bad spot. When they were going to events, they didn't have a translator with them. And then when they finally got a translator, it wasn't one that had Overwatch knowledge. So it was very hard to communicate to the translator, who would then try to relay their message to the fan base. Really wasn't coming through clearly. They weren't given funds to be able to use Ubers to go to different restaurants. They were really stuck at the location that they were at. So let's go with the assumption that these reports are accurate. That's pretty damning against an organization. Like it looks really bad when this is supposed to be a multi-million-dollar league. You have players playing for you across the globe that are putting their life on pause for you, right? Like, I mean, they're trying to make your brand look good also.
Right.
It's not just about them. And to get thrown into that situation, again, if that's accurate, to me, that's a terrible, terrible look. You dropped a top flight roster. You didn't accommodate them properly. You kind of just left them to fend for themselves. And that's really unfortunate because from what we've seen from real world-class organizations, think Complexity, think Cloud9, think TSM, just hearing Drone talk about how
like
TSM,
we've seen the Envy's office.
Envy, like all of these organizations that we know of, treat their players truly like world-class players. And it doesn't seem like that was unfortunately the case for Vancouver. And maybe that's a bigger reason for the split than, oh, they wanted to go home and play in Korea, which is kind of what we had been hearing most of the time.
Yeah, and I really do kind of believe Richard Lewis's article there, because you did kind of hear through the grapevine before it all really blew up, like the players randomly taking everything to do with Vancouver out of their social media. That's like red flag number one, and it's a pretty damning red flag. And then you kind of heard rumblings that some of the players wanted to leave early, which of course now we kind of know why, right? Yeah, it's a big yikes. It's a big yikes, especially because these guys, I mean, they're going to all these events and talking to all their buddies, and they're like, oh, it's like they're living in like a college dorm. Like that's what it sounds like. It sounds like a college dorm. If you've ever stayed in a college dorm, that's what it is. It's a cinder block closet pretty much. But
Yeah.
you're also like a freshman, sophomore in college, so you're like, whatever. This is as
Well,
good
and
as
your
it gets.
job is not to be in that dorm,
Yeah,
right?
you're not a
going to class,
professional
you're out with your
player.
friends, you're like living your life. In this case, like these guys are stuck at the facility. So if you're going to put them in the facility and it's going to be a dorm room style, which even a dorm room sounds better. Honestly, the dorms that I stayed in were better than a concrete block or a cell, is what it sounds like for them. It's just unfortunate that it went this way because we know the potential and the skill that this roster had based on previous season results and kind of how they had grown within the league. So for it to fizzle away so fast and just see this breakup happen, you always kind of assume there was more to the story than they want to go back home. Like it just didn't make a lot of sense the way it happened mid-season and everything else that's just tied to it. It didn't make sense. So for me, huge yikes. I would love to talk to somebody from Vancouver if they want to get on the line and discuss it and give us some more insight because we're going off of his reports. But as of right now, we've known Richard Lewis for a long time. There's no reason to believe that this is some bullshit that he just made up to write a story. Like it's very in depth and very damning to them. So
I also think it's 100% believable that a North American culture team picks up a 100% Korean culture team and communication is misunderstood somewhere in there. You know what I'm saying? Like they probably thought, oh, well, how different can it be? We're just picking up these kids from North America or not North America, Korea. And it's like how
not North Korea.
Not North Korea. That would be a story though. How bad can it be? But it's not impossible. We've seen teams like London, they have a full Korean roster. New York, hell, they are marketing that's a marketing machine how New York is doing it with them. So it's possible. I think you just have to be willing to kind of make the effort to communicate with that. And like you were saying, it's like, well, if you don't even have a solid translator on site, like what do you
got to make it comfortable for the players to want to sell your org, right?
Right.
If they don't feel like they're treated well, they're not going to go out of their way to make themselves comfortable within the community and that location and all that. Like there's so much more than just playing the game that goes into this that the average fan doesn't see. And when everything else around you is on fire, it's hard to put out the put the blinkers, shaders down and just focus on the game when everything around you is in turmoil.
Yeah. So my yikes comes from the land of Fortnite. And so Ninja, of course, he put on his own tournament. We kind of talked a little bit about it in E-News and everything there. Well, first tournament, first ban. As Ninja bans TSM, a hot topic in esports, man. Hot topic. All over the place.
Nothing good so far for the last
they
month
signed
for
Drone.
TSM.
They did sign their Valorant roster. That's good. Also,
outside of that,
everyone will be proud of me. I really wanted to make a dating in the workplace joke in the interview. At one point he teed it up like, oh yeah, the perks of being with TSM are great. I almost sent that home. I mean, it was fastball down the middle. I almost knocked it out of the park, but I was like, I'm going to lay up.
This is where the yin to Tim's yang is very crucial for this show's livelihood.
I'm going to lay up. I was like, I'm just going to take the pitch for the team and just let it go because I almost crushed that ball. Oh, boy. I think he would have taken it in jest. Maybe not. Who knows? Anyways.
He probably doesn't know who Double Lift is.
That is very... Yeah, after figuring out he didn't know who Sinatra was, there is not a chance in hell Drone knows about the dating scandal with TSM. Not a chance.
Drone's focused on being a Valorant pro, and you know what? That's why we love him.
Yes, yeah. When you have such blinders on that you don't know who Sinatra is, especially because when he made the move, right? Like he was like, "Oh, who's this Sinatra guy we're playing against? He's pretty good." It's like, bro, that's like MVP of Overwatch. Like, oh,
haven't been on Twitter today, have you?
Had no idea. Anyway, so TSM Zexro ended up winning the Ninja tournament, but also was pretty much immediately banned from any future participant in a Ninja event. He's also been fined one salary by TSM. So 1 month salary, if I didn't say that. So you're probably asking yourself, well, Tim, what the hell did he say? Well, I have some audio for here.
Can you even play this?
Oh, yeah. It's our show. We can play whatever we want.
Any final shout outs, questions, or, kind of, projects you're working on that we want to give you the floor, of course, to shout yourself out here?
No, not really working on anything. Hopefully I do good in solos, but like last FNCS didn't go too well, but I just made more than top 9 in it, so everyone that didn't place in top 10 can like suck my dick. They're fucking shitters. I don't know why they talk shit. They're actually also dog shit and brain dead. That's all I'm saying.
All right, and that's going to conclude that one right there.
That's the best part is the end. All right, well, that's going to conclude that one. There were listeners in our Discord that mentioned, well, that's not too bad. Tim says that like every time I play with him. 2 points. Yes, that's true. I've probably said that exact sentence at one point in time playing Valorant. 100%. But I probably wouldn't say it in my victory interview for a tournament. I'd probably lay off a little bit on the now during the tournament, sure. But
like in your own comms?
Yeah, in my own comms, absolutely. I'll say whatever I want. But in the handshake line, well, we'll leave it alone. We'll leave it alone.
Especially doing it in Ninja's tournament, right? Like Ninja has taken this anti-bullying stance and is pretty vocal against like fair treatment in your community or like your esports community, right?
Yeah.
Obviously everywhere else, but in general, Ninja has taken quite a big stance on that. So the one tournament organizer that you probably cannot say this in and you have zero chance of getting away with it would be Ninja's tournament. And look, I'm glad the way they handled it because that shouldn't have been said in that setting, Tim. Like there is a time and a place to say that. Again, if you're talking like that, we've all been there. We've all said shit like, but you say it in your own group.
Now I do have another piece of audio here. It says untitled. I forgot. Let me see what it is.
Oh, 2 pumps. In case the first one missed, right? In case you can't hit me for 80, right? In case you can suck your fucking cock, right? Fuck you. Fuck the pump. Fuck this game, dude. The double pump shotgun can lick the fucking nastiest, most disgusting asshole.
Oh. That's a tough one, pal. That's a tough one.
Is that the wrong audio? Yeah,
Although,
Ninja has grown since then.
Has he though? Has he? I've never watched a stream, so I couldn't tell you. But
the 30 million changes.
Yeah. The contract to be on a kid's toy will make you clean up pretty damn quick. So I don't blame him. You have Streamer Ninja and Boss Ninja. This was Boss Ninja putting on his boss hat, saying, "Hey, you can't say that. You can't say that." So
I'm kind of happy they took the stance they took, though.
I don't mind that
because you really shouldn't in that situation.
Yeah, and who knows? Ninja might let him back in another tournament down the road. Who knows? It's Ninja's tournament. He can do whatever the hell he wants with it. I will say though, I do like that TSM only fined him for like 1 month's salary, because it's not lose your spot worthy.
Well, he didn't say anything racist.
Listen, and that's really the bar. In esports, just don't say the N-word and you're and hell, sometimes you can even say the N-word and you're okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, the things that he said are not anything that most players that play online competitive games haven't heard, right?
Right.
It's not like it was anything so off the cuff. But in that setting, in that moment, uncalled for, bad look, like be a professional. That's what you're supposed to be right there. And he definitely was not.
No, just take the W. You won. Just take it and say, hey, good game, everyone. For all those talking trash, how's the weather down there out of the top 10? So you could get your zingers in. I'm not anti, come on. But
if he had lost, would that have been acceptable speech?
I mean, I guess he would have just been a sore loser at that point, but I don't know. Look, we've talked about it so many times when these orgs just need to have like professional athletes actually do media training. And I'm pretty sure most esports orgs do that now. But you gotta have some know-how to be like, hey, I'm in a victory interview for a tournament. Maybe not tell people to suck my cock and call them brain dead. Maybe not the best time to do this. Maybe later in your own stream or on Twitter to say this, but not, especially because this was getting streamed on Ninja's Mixer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this was
the bright side is no one saw it.
12-year-old fans.
Like, on the bright side, no one saw this because it was on Mixer. But, can I also...
Do you know how many viewers he got to by
I have
chance?
no
Is that
idea. None
Okay.
whatsoever. Can I also throw a little impromptu yikes? So
What do we got?
Halo started their Pro Series over this weekend. And so I was like, you know me, I'm a Halo homer. I want nothing more but to see this succeed. And on their Twitter, it says on Mixer and Twitch. And I was like, the game even owned by Microsoft is like, we got to stream on Twitch.
Have to.
We
Have
can't,
to put it on both.
we can't put all our chips in our basket to watch only on Twitter. So I was like, all right, gotta bend the knee sometime, I guess.
It's like a yikes of the week, but it's also a smart move at the same
Right,
time.
exactly. Yeah, it's like, by all means, yes, you definitely need to stream on Twitch. And even then, they only had, like, I think 4,000 viewers, but it'll get back there. I have faith in Halo. As long as they market it properly. Just don't get me started.
Halo Infinite will do fine. I don't think we'll see any of the iterations of Halo that are coming out like have huge Twitch numbers again, like it did at initial launch.
Not when
Reach, or
Reach,
whatever
yeah,
it came
not
out.
when Reach launched. No. And it just depends on where. That conversation needs to wait because you get me started on it, and I'm gonna go, and I won't be able to stop. And then I'll turn a Zexro on 343 Studios, so I just can't. We'll wait for it to get closer to when Infinite actually gets released, and hopefully they do something important for esports on that one. Because it's very fragile. Like, I feel like it's a very fragile step for how they handle the Halo esports scene. Also, something that could be very fragile, Anuj, or maybe not, is the Astralis roster shuffle. Now, we said last time that we are going to wait till this episode to talk about it, because it really deserved more than just an E-News shout-out. And in between that time, Richard Lewis and some other people on Twitter have kind of kicked the tires on this notion that, maybe something else is going on here than just players needing mental breaks. Like, it seems very convenient of them to take mental breaks, and historically, and I would say arguably, this point is, I would argue it, is the slowest time of these pros' career. Richard Lewis, I'm sure this was just a number thrown out there, so I won't hold him to it, but he says that their work has been reduced by 70%. And so it's very odd that these players now are taking scheduled, like, timed breaks. Like, hey, I'll be back in 3 months, right? So now he's kind of kicking this notion around that there might be something up than just, hey, I need a break. So I know we kind of wanted to kind of base this around that discussion, because I think that's a little bit more important than how will this roster do now.
Yeah, so first we have Glaive, right? Like, Glaive comes in, announces a 3-month break, and nobody seemed to be like over the top going crazy when that happened, right? They're like, oh, yeah, okay, like, players take breaks from time to time.
That's why they signed the 6-man.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, they signed other people on the roster. Jugi was stepping in for him, and they had already accumulated so many points on the road to Rio based on, obviously, like the last tournament performance, and then coming in with the last major win. They're kind of well ahead in the standing, so nobody really batted an eye too much, I don't think, when Glaive stepped away. And then you have Zipnix come out, known notoriously to be their clutch master. Again, you got to remember, guys, this is a very young roster, although they've been together for a long time and have played a lot of CS, like, relatively young roster. Now you see player number 2 step away before S-Tag's contract has ended with Heroic. So they do not have, I know we're talking about the 7-man roster. They really only have a 6-man roster until the end of June, when S-Tag's contract comes to an end, and then he would join the squad beginning of July. So it seemed a little bit more unusual to now lose a second player prior to having the 7th man available.
And Zipnik's leaving, I will say, seemed a little bit more spontaneous. Where Glaive, it kind of seemed like everyone knew on the org side, like, hey, this is going to happen, and we're going to have Yuki step in, and this is exactly why we're signing these guys. Well, Zipnik's left, and the next thing you hear is that the team was like almost like panic shopping for a 5th, like just going down the list of any team that would give them a player. So it landed on Snappy being loaned over from Heroic, and so that's now who they have. And he's only filling in. They've said this. So when originally it was kind of like a indefinite leave for Zipnik's, but now it seems like it's just going to be for DreamHack and Blast. Or at least that's how far Snappy is playing for them.
Tim, I'll probably take some heat for this, but like, I don't think everything has to be a conspiracy. You know, like for me, I look at this as an opportunity, as a good time for if a couple of players needed to take a break to knock it out simultaneously, rather than Glaive taking a 3-month break, coming back, trying to integrate himself back onto the team, and then, oh, hey, by the way, now another player is going to go take a break. We're going to have another fill in here. And maybe not building the continuity that they would want leading into, you know, whatever, if the major happens or whatever, you know, the Blast finals will be coming up, you know, in a couple months from now. So I looked at this a little bit different. Like, to me, I didn't get the vibe looking at the players' responses that there was some huge turmoil, right? Like Magisk had made a statement, Device came out and tweeted out some stuff. And everything that I read, I looked at it and I'm like, well, they don't seem pissed. Maybe they wouldn't obviously naturally say it, oh, we hate Zipnik's for doing this. What a shitty move. What a terrible teammate. Like, they wouldn't word it like that. But they also didn't need to go out of their way to show a lot of support for him, right? They could have just stayed a little quiet and you know, then we could have pulled out some more pitchforks at that time. But I really believe it's not the worst time because the tournaments are online. We know as well as anybody, like, they do get taken with a grain of salt, right? Like, people look at these teams and, you know, even Launder said it, like, we look at these events and wins and losses, we take it a little bit with a grain of salt because we will see how they perform again once they get back onto land and people believe that these teams will kind of go back to their original alignment of how they were. We tend to see more upsets online than you do on land.
Yeah.
And I think they've accumulated so many points, Tim, that it makes sense right now. If you're going to have people step away, like, why not do it when you're so far ahead? Not maybe when you're starting to fall back to the middle of the pack. Like, they have a cushion and they have a good player to step in for one of them. Snappy is a great alternative, I think, to have step in for Zipnik's. He's not some scrub off the streets. So I just don't see this as the world is on fire in Astralis land. And maybe that it makes a little bit of sense from a couple different areas.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you. I didn't even think about the whole, like, if you're staggering your time off as a player, you're kind of damaging the team's outcome long-term wise, like, for the exact reason. And again, right now we're under the impression that the major is happening. So you don't want to all of a sudden work out and get the kinks back in, you know, get that muscle memory going again a month before the major. So if maybe Zipnik's went to the team and said, hey, I kind of want to take a leave, and they maybe unanimously said, well, take it now. Like, take it now while Glaive is out, and then that way we can kind of all come back in full swing. I also kind of I would argue the point saying that this is historically the most downtime players have ever in CS. Now, if you want to view that as they're not traveling, then yeah, sure, of course. This is the most downtime from traveling. But that doesn't mean that they're just kicking it up and then showing up for these tournaments whenever they want, eating pizza at their computer desk, and then whatever. Like, these guys are still putting in, hell, maybe some even more practice time because they are just sitting at home.
This is the most practice time that any of these top flight teams have had in years. right? Like you think about some of the excuses that we've heard in the past. Well, we really can't change our strats too much because it's one event to the next, right? You got 2 or 3 days of downtime in between. It's really difficult to like just finish off a tournament, go home, put in 3 days of practice, redo some of the strats that you've made, and then go compete in the tournament all over again
Right.
and hope that those strats work.
And
I do think
I'll say this just while we're still on this topic. Traveling is exhausting, right? We are all exhausted after a traveling. That being said, we've been to these events, Anuj, and we have gone to, we've traveled for events as well. It's just a different mindset. Like these players, they're in the pool, they're smoking a pack a day, at least for the French teams anyways, and that's not an exaggeration. The French CS:GO.
under exaggeration if it's just a pack a day.
Yeah. But they're, you know what I'm saying though, they're walking around the city, they're going to the restaurants, they're at the pool. They are, despite traveling and that being kind of exhausting on the body, mentally though, I think they are taking the time to relax and give themselves a moment while traveling. When you're at home, I mean, hell, I was just talking about it a couple weeks ago on the show, where it's like all of a sudden, like quarantine has hit me. And I felt like I just hit a speed bump and I'm like, whew, I need to do something. I need to get out. I need to go on a trip. Like I got my Hawaiian shirt on today. It's just, I need something to trick me that I'm in vacation mode, right? Because it is exhausting just being stuck at home. And so, with these guys here, if you're already having that stress, there are more signs to me pointing that, oh yeah, this makes sense for a mental break than, ooh, something must be up. Now maybe something is, but I don't get that vibe.
Yeah, I just don't think it's like as personally, I don't think it's as bad as it's being made out to be. Like again, to me, a lot of it just makes sense for the timing to have them both done at the same time. We'll find out, information will come out. If there's something more there, people will find out. It will get reported on. We'll know. Like it's very hard to hide this stuff if there really is drama. And hell, we'll know if one of these breaks turns into a permanent vacation for one of them, right? Like that would obviously be the biggest telltale sign is one of them just doesn't return when they're supposed to. But
Yeah.
I think for them it just makes sense. Like I just don't think there's a ton scheduled. Hey, I love the Blast tournament, but I also know at the same time, this is the second round. This is not the finals that he's stepping away from. DreamHack Masters, great. It is a big event. Like I know it means a lot, but there's bigger. There's a lot bigger tournaments out there. We know them: Cologne, Katowice, the majors. Like there's a handful of events that are bigger than the DreamHack Masters. And I don't know how much Astralis necessarily cares to win those. And I don't take that the wrong way. Like
Well,
I
we've
think
seen it.
this is a team that counts majors, and that's what they count.
And yeah, that's exactly correct, because we've seen this in the past from Astralis taking events off. Basically just for the same exact reason that these guys are, is that they just needed a break, and people are like, well, how can you miss this event? And they're like, well, because we can. Like we're Astralis.
We count championships. Like that's what we count for Astralis, right?
You guys
We're
remember?
not counting how many Masters wins they have. Do you know how many Masters they've won in the past 3 years?
Not a clue.
No, because nobody cares. Like that's not what it's about. I can tell you how many majors they've won. Can't tell you anything else though, right? I don't even think the number one ranking means as much as it used to. There's an ESL ranking, there's an HLTV ranking. Like, I just don't think it means as much to them, right? Like fans, yes, you want your team to be number one all the time. It gives you bragging rights, and to a certain extent, obviously, it gives them bragging rights. Who the hell is going to go talk trash on Astralis and be like, you're ranked number 2 in the world. You're ranked number 3. Y'all
we
suck,
tried
trust
that.
me.
Remember? We tried doing that to Astralis, and then they came back and got back to number 1 for months again. So
Which is where they're sitting right now in the HLTV rankings. They're sitting at number 1, right? So now if they were to take a step back, Tim, let's just say they don't perform well at the Blast Pro Summer Series, whatever the hell it's called. or the DreamHack Masters. And let's say Navi pulls out a double win here and takes the number 1 ranking. This excuse makes a little bit more sense of why they're number 2 then, right? Like, it's not like we say, oh, they're performing badly and they've dropped to number 2. Oh, no, they have 2 guys on a break. They're going to come back. Let's see how they perform when they come back and then really judge them, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even think the normal fan could sit here and be like, oh, well, they fall to number 2. Like, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, they're in trouble. They're not going to be able to get that spot back. And there's nobody behind them, Tim, that I think scares them right now. Like, they really have put themselves in a position where they're so far ahead of the pack that they don't have to worry about this stuff. Navi, are they afraid of Navi? Hell no. Fnatic. We've seen Fnatic drop a multitude of games that they should never lose. Is Astralis sitting there shaking in their boots? Mouse Sports. They just got knocked out first round of the tournament. Like, there's nobody in a clear line of sight behind them that probably worries them. And so if you need a mental break, which we know a lot of these players probably need.
You can't always wait for the players break. Like, that's just not reasonable to think, well, you get like a 3-week break leading up to the major. Can't you just wait? Because we've talked about, again, that's not really a break when it leads into a big tournament.
Don't you think these guys have put themselves in position, Tim, to afford themselves a break if they wanted one? There's a lot of players out there, and I know this for a fact after talking to many of them, that there are a lot of players out there that probably need a mental break. But guess what? They can't take it. Because if they do, and if somebody else comes in and plays well, guess what? You're losing your spot most likely. There's not many people in that elite level that have afforded themselves that opportunity to take a step back, get their mental game right, and come back into the game. This core 5 has done that. They've earned that over and over and over again. They could have done this a year ago and it would have been fine. Like, it didn't need to be, oh, now they got their 3rd major, they can do this. Like, they've earned this right to be able to do that. So if that's truly what it's about, I'm not concerned that they're going to come back any weaker. If there's internal turmoil, maybe this is an opportunity to get everybody's game and mind right and find a refocused synergy to go out there and compete together. So I think on either side, it's not the worst thing. If there's internal issues and they wanted to step away and take a break, great. Good time in my mind to do that. You probably had to because there is turmoil. If there's not and they're just mentally exhausted, okay, great. You've afforded yourself the opportunity to do it. And trust me, your spot is safe. Jugi is not taking Glave's spot. You know,
Right.
like, that's not happening. Snappy is not taking Zipnik's spot long term. Like, it's not happening. So, in fact, Snappy's on another roster. So, that's definitely not happening. So, again, I feel like they've afforded themselves the opportunity to do it. And I just don't look too much past it until there are reports out there that specify, hey, this is what the issue is. It's irrecoverable. They're not going to be able to fix it. Okay, we have another story then.
Yeah, but I
now,
think
it's not how I
if
see
it
it.
were at that point, I mean, how many times? Hell, we just talked about Vancouver. We heard the rumblings way before they dropped the roster. It's like, how many times in esports can you keep something like this? Like, if there were inner turmoil with Astralis, how would you keep that under wraps? Like, that doesn't happen in esports. There's no industry in the world that have looser tongues than esports. Like, in esports, no one can keep their mouth shut. So it's just...
It's true. Like, there's just, like I said, I feel like if there was a major issue here within the players, it'd be really hard for it to not come out, especially when they have 7 people on the roster now. That's more ears listening to things and seeing how things are, right? Like, if Jugi really thought there was some crazy turmoil, guess what? He could let some info slip, being anonymous, giving it to the right reporter, and helping his own cause. But that's not happening. Like, we're not seeing that stuff come up yet. So, again, I feel like it's the right time. I feel like they're the team that's able to do it. They're well ahead in the standings still currently. I don't see a lot changing until they come back.
Nope. And again, I agree. I agree. So either way, if something is going on, we'll definitely talk about it. But let us know what you think. If there's something you think that's going on with the Astralis roster that more than meets the eye, hit us up in Discord or Twitter at The Centering. Well, let's get some news knocked out of the way. Quiet last couple of days. The Blast premiere spring starts tomorrow. I believe for NA and EU, they both start. So that will be exciting. A lot of like EU on there. If you go and look, it's just kind of, you forgot what a wild ride the first one was, because the teams in this is Vitality, Astralis, Fnatic, Mad Lion. So you're like, wait, why are NIP has even been performing? And you're like, oh, that's right, because they all shit the bed the first one. So they're all back in this one. And a lot of people were upset because like, how do you not have other teams in there? You got to remember, and I don't even have time to explain it, but like Blast is doing these in stages, and you can qualify in a different stage, so you're not going to play in this stage.
Like, you can basically qualify for the last stage through that first round.
Exactly.
And some of those teams have, so they're not required.
They're
to
not
play
there,
this
which is
stage
why
of the
like
tournament.
NA, you don't see team. NA is almost the exact opposite, where some of these teams are, crazy, where it's like, oh, you don't have Liquid in this event. Well, it's because they qualified already, so you don't have to worry about it. So you do have Evil Geniuses for NA. Honestly, NA looks wide open. Like, that's going to be the more exciting. If you're looking for just a wild ride, the NA side of the Blast premiere is going to be nuts. So, honestly, Cloud9 and Gen G might be your best out of that.
If Evil Geniuses loses Group B and they don't come out through Group B, get ready. Like, get ready, because that team is already on the verge of making some changes.
Well, like Tarek already, or Tarek already, Tarek?
Yeah.
I'm thinking Turok is what I'm thinking. Like, my brain wanted to say Turok. Tarek already tweeted out, kind of teasing that he might be going full-time streaming. I think it was a tongue-in-cheek, but
you never know with him, though.
Is it really? And in Valorant news, we talked about it last time that, hey, it's okay that it's coming out June 2nd, because they'll probably be taking their time with esports. No, not the case. Valorant is teaming up with Twitch to do a global tournament in many regions that will total a prize pool of 200,000. Now, this isn't like a exclusive pro tournament. I think it's kind of like a hybrid Twitch rival event, but
streamers, influencers involved, but still, it's like, it was funny because we were just like, but they'll take their time. They'll slow it down a little bit. Boom, 200K right out the bat. Like, let's go.
Also, though, they did announce the new agent, Reyna. Is that how you'd say that? Reyna, Reyna, Reyna. As far as the last I checked, not a whole lot of details came out yet. They haven't released the specifics, just the video. Even Drone kind of jokingly mentioned to us that it kind of just looks like a Sombra clone from Overwatch, which, they've never done that before. They've never copied an Overwatch player. But it should be exciting nonetheless. So that will be out. Believe it or not, I think the servers open back up tomorrow night. I've heard that they're opening back up tomorrow night, even though it's June 1st, but
Either way, right around the corner.
Yeah, don't fact check me on that. It's either tomorrow night or the 2nd. So that will be back and going. I think that's it. You got anything else for e-news? It was kind of a quiet couple days.
It was. No, nothing else.
All right. Well, that will do it for the show, episode 243. It's done. It's in the books. Thank you again so much to Drone for coming on the show, spending some time with us. Again, congratulations to him. Hit him up on Twitter. Say congrats from TCR crew at Drone CSGO until he changes that, because he definitely needs to now, because he's no longer. It's been over a month since he's played. But again, thank you for him for coming on, and congrats with the roster signing to TSM. We will be back Wednesday night to record Thursday's show. I'm sure we'll talk some Valorant with the new agent being out. We would have played her by then. DreamHack. No, that starts the 8th, but we do have the Blast Pro starting. Look, plenty to talk about. Plenty to talk about in esports. Never a dull moment. But that's for Thursday's show. Again, follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring if you're not doing so already. We would greatly appreciate it, and join us up in Discord. But until then, for Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see ya. Perfecto. Everyone in chat, thank you so much. I got to cut this short, though, because I got to go do stuff. So I will talk to everyone later, whoever's in chat.